Speaker, I'd like to ask if the honourable member is prepared to take a question and explain, is she in Zilla's caucus or in John Steenhuisen's caucus? Will she take that question?
Honourable Boshoff, are you prepared to take a question?
I do not entertain silly questions.
Please proceed.
South African business.
Whoa, guys, I've really never listened to this MP, Sonia Boshoff, much. But really, she's another, seeming to me to be like another Iron Lady in the DA, you know, and this speech here where she actually rebuffs, especially I think there was a question by Dogmore, ANC member, where she rebuffs him, actually saying that, you know, she doesn't respond to silly questions. For me, that was the cliffhanger. But she actually speaks of really interesting points in her speech where she argues and tries to remind the ANC that the ANC is no longer kind of like a majority, and so the ANC cannot rule as though it were in a form of dictatorship. We've seen that the ANC has pulled through with, you know, the Bella bill, trying to pull through now with NHI bill, and also the expropriation without compensation in the midst and the presence of other parties like the DA, the FF Plus, and all of that. And, you know, this actually, I suspect many of the members in the GNU might have actually felt that this approach seems dictatorial. And, you know, the ANC seems to still think that it's still a majority passing these policies without, you know, what Helen Zille has many times called sufficient consensus that was actually, you know, in the initial draft that through which they joined the GNU. And so Sonia Boshoff is really thundering really hard in Parliament here, reminding the ANC about these, you know, eventualities and how the ANC must not really think, you know, that it can actually, you know, continue to be dictatorial in its leadership. It actually brings out points and facts also on certain failed policies that the ANC had been embarking on, and how and why probably these actually policies might have cost the ANC a loss of its voters and really blasting the ANC in Parliament anyway. And for me, it's really interesting because these are supposed to be members in one particular party, a coalition government, but then we see these tensions, and it just speaks to me and takes me back to what Prince Mashele argues, that the GNU might not necessarily be able to save South Africa because of that tension, right? That there needs to be a decisive shift either to the left or to the right for really sufficient, magnificent change to really become fruitful in South Africa. But other than that, the likes of these kinds of speeches, powerful speeches by Sonia Boshoff, we'll keep hearing them to constantly remind the ANC, you know, of its legacy in South Africa, and how probably the DA might decide to be decisive and step in leadership. But anyway, let's quickly listen to Sonia Boshoff really give this really powerful speech to the ANC, to President Ramaphosa, confronting the ANC specifically, and share your thoughts in the comments.
I now invite the Honourable Boshoff.
Honourable Deputy Speaker, Honourable Chairperson of the NCOP, Mr. President, members of the House. We meet today in the wake of the President's State of the Nation address, an occasion intended to offer direction and hope. Yet how can we speak of hope when the President again proposes a questionable policy that undermines economic growth, discourages investment, and exacerbates already high levels of unemployment? Minister Thal's unilateral announcement of the 100 billion transformational fund is not just a bad policy, it is significant concern for democratic processes, an attack on our economy, and a direct threat to fairness, accountability, and the rule of law. This fund was never approved by Cabinet. It was never debated within the GNU. It was never subjected to the due processes that govern major financial policy decisions. Instead, it was unilaterally declared as though the ANC still governs alone. Let me make it abundantly clear, they do not. This government is a GNU. and not an ANC dictatorship. The days of steamrolling over South Africa's economy and institutions for the benefit of a few elected elite are over. Years of poor economic policies, crippling corruption, and rampant crime has resulted in a stagnating economy and gradually, over the last 3 decades, took the voters away 20% of their support. And despite this, the ANC went ahead and pushed through NHI, Bella Bill, and the EWC under guise of caring. But in effect, all 3 acts do nothing for the economic growth or creating jobs, and each of them limits individual freedom. Speaking to you, sir, read the headlines, ANC. Your policies are not working, and that's why the voters are rejecting you. The ANC did not give us the GNU. The voters did. They rejected ANC policy. They rejected race-based legislation. I must, however, stress the need for transformation is not up for a debate. It is a necessity. This means the means by which we achieve it.
Honourable Member, please take your seat. I recognise the Chief Whip of the DA.
Thank you, Honourable Deputy Speaker. My apologies for doing that to our member, but the member is being drowned out from here where we sit. Can you please ask that the members afford the necessary respect to her? Thank you.
Honourable Members, we have made the request earlier this afternoon as well. Please keep down the comments and the heckling so that everyone, even at the back, can hear the Speaker. Honourable Boshoff, please proceed.
Thank you, Deputy Speaker. However, the means by which we achieve it must be legally sound, economically viable and transparent. This fund, in its current form, fails on all 3 counts. We have seen this exact playbook before, at Eskom, at Prasa, in PPE scandals, and the billions looted during the state.
Honourable Boshoff, please take your seats. Honourable Dugmore. Please try another microphone.
Deputy Speaker, I'd like to ask if the honourable member is prepared to take a question and explain, is she in Zilla's caucus or in John Steenhuisen's caucus? Will she take that question?
Honourable Boshoff, are you prepared to take a question?
I do not entertain silly questions.
Please proceed.
South African businesses are already struggling due to unreliable power supply and unreliable water supply, a failing infrastructure, a punishing tax regime and policy uncertainty, which is driving investors away. And this fund will only worsen it. The National Empowerment Fund, which is expected to administer this fund, has faced ongoing scrutiny for governance inefficiencies and financial mismanagement. Without strong oversight mechanisms in place, 100 billion in public and private sector contributions could easily become a bottomless pit, failing to deliver meaningful economic transformation while again enriching a select few. We advocate for transparent governance that ensures all public funds are managed through National Treasury and not the questionable NEF. The DA has exposed the full extent of this disaster. My colleague Toby Chance has done hard work in Parliament to reveal the fund's lack of consultation, financial irregularities and unconstitutional design. Agbare President, daar is klinkbare bewyse dat ekonomiese beleide wat rasgebaseerde kriteria nastreef, daar gestel is om net die elite bevoordeel en moet onmiddellik geskraap word en vervang word met meriete gebaseerde behoeftegedrewe bemagtiging. Finish en klaar. Across every sector, from small business owners to major corporations and foreign investors, there is widespread rejection to this plan. En die publiek, agbare president, hulle sien reg deur julle. Na jare van korrupsie, van staatskaping tot plundering van die COVID-hulp, weet Suid-Afrikaners presies wat gebeur as die ANC hulle hande op die 100 miljard gaan kry. Dit gaan nie na transformasie lei nie. Dit gaan in die sakke van die gekoppeldes verbind is. Ons sal dit nie toelaat dat transformasie as 'n verskoning vir plundering gebruik word nie. Honourable members, there is an alternative to this slush fund. The Democratic Alliance's Economic Justice Policy. Go and read it. This offers a transformation model that is transparent, accountable, and driven by economic growth. This policy speaks to enterprise-driven transformation, empowering small and medium businesses through incentives and investment-friendly policies, skills development, and not forced racial quotas. The reason for a GNU is to find the best policies from each member party and implement them well. In conclusion, Honourable President, if you believe in fairness, accountability, and economic growth, I say this: reconsider this brewing mistake. Fight for real transformation and economic growth for all South Africans, not only the politically connected few. Scupper this impending disaster of a fund and listen to South Africans. Jobs and growth are what they need, not repackaged policy failures. We are committed to ensuring that this policy does not proceed in its current form. I thank you.
Honourable the Minister of